Coming up next, the lead singer of a multi-platinum American rock band from the Midwest gives us the story behind a classic rock standard from 1981 about cheating. Has one of the most memorable opening lines from a rock song ever. It's a sing-along for sure, and this interview is a can't miss. One of the nicest guys in rock. Next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you've ever gotten your cassette eaten by your boombox, you're gonna be right at home with this channel. It means you're a music fan. Make sure that you subscribe right now below so that you never miss out on our daily content. These are the stories of the songs straight from the legends. Now, we also have a Patreon below. Take a look at our content there. That also helps our mission of curating this music history. Very important. So there have been something around 100,000 albums that were officially released in the rock era. A mere 15 of those have spent 15 or more weeks at the #1 spot. Talking about albums like Beatles' Sgt. Pepper, Michael Jackson Thriller, Prince Purple Rain, and Reo Speedwagon, Hi Infidelity. Hi Infidelity was one of my first musical memories. One of the first albums that I remember hearing all the songs. I remember I was barely like 5 years old. I was riding in my dad's truck, the radio was playing, and I distinctly remember him saying, you know, this is a great song, listen to this. And he proceeded to turn up the volume to, slightly beyond what was safe for a young child. But I was grateful because I was immediately smitten by the opening lines of this song. Went a little something like this. Heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend. Heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another. You've been messing around. I mean, you kidding me? The soaring, passionate vocals of one Kevin Cronin. From another, you've been messing around. Followed by the blazing guitar of Gary Richrath. By the time it got to the second chorus, I was singing to the top of my lungs right along with my dad. I was barely able to put a lot of sentences together at that point, but this form of communication, I could speak eloquently. It was rock and roll, and it felt amazing. You know what I'm talking about. Now, as soon as the song was over, I remember saying to my dad, play it again, play it again. Of course, it was on the radio, and he explained to me that it was Reo Speedwagon. I'd heard it before. The band, at least. It was the same band who was behind one of my other favorite songs of that moment, Keep On Loving You. That's one of those early memories where I realized that a band or an artist could have 2 or 3 songs, recognizable songs. He said, I'll play the record for you when we get home. And previous to that, he would play me Keep On Loving You on that record. But now this was a band that I understood had 2 songs that I loved. And I started really listening to the full record after that. I'd lay down and listen to the record. And Hi Infidelity became one of the first albums where I knew every single song because I fully gave it my attention. That really started my love for records. As a kid, just discovering the wonder of the world. First, I thought it looked like a big black Frisbee. And I was going to try to throw it, but my dad taught me pretty quickly that was out of bounds. The sound that came from that big black circle, it just brought my little existence at that moment a few things. Curiosity, the feeling of invincibility, a wonder, but most of all, it brought a feeling of just complete joy, pure joy. And I kept coming back, and to this day, of course, I still listen. From that point on, I was a fan of the Speedwagon. The power in their music for me was in the smorgasbord of beautiful melodies and unique narratives interwoven at the core. Kevin Cronin has a tremendous ability as a storyteller while keeping your toes tapping and the fingers snapping, if you know what I mean. As a kid, the music really did. It just made you feel like you were 10 feet tall. And, that's one of the things that a lot of music critics of the day and the music snobs of the day and of today that they lose in the translation of bands like Reo Speedwagon and Foreigner and Journey and Boston and Styx. They called it corporate rock, but they were so busy looking for the cool factor that they forgot that the purest form of rock and roll has always been about the ability to connect people to beautiful memories. That and, make you want to dance. It's why we pass these bands and these classic songs, that tradition, to our own children. I've definitely done that. The first concert that I took my kids to, one was 3 and one was 5. It was on the 4th of July, quite a few years back. I had an interview with Kevin Cronin before a show on the 4th of July. And my wife and I thought it would be a cool surprise for our 2 little ones with concert and fireworks. Needless to say, after seeing their first live rock and roll show, they couldn't care less about the fireworks. I remember I had my son on my shoulders and we were singing the song, all the songs. And lo and behold, Kevin noticed us in the crowd and made reference to us. And my son was beyond elated. To this day, he talks about it incessantly. The sound man gave both my boys the set list and guitar picks after the show. It's a memory that they're going to carry for the long haul. And my son was the same age I was when I heard Reo for the first time. What Reo did that night connected my kids and me. And for that matter, the 6,000 people that were there. And you can't put a price on that. Now, Reo Speedwagon is all over pop culture these days. This song was just used in Cobra Kai in a way that we can all relate to.
You like Speedwagon?
What kind of man doesn't?
Just like Daniel and Johnny, you can't help but sing to the top of your lungs when this song comes on.
Hey, pull over.
Just like I did with my own dad so many years ago. And now that he's gone, I cling to moments like those, like a lifeline. There's just memories that keep me close to him. All of these reasons are why Kevin and Reo Speedwagon were inducted into the People's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a long time ago. I've had the chance to talk to Kevin a few times, and he's one of the best guys in the business. And he tells the story behind Take It on the Run up next. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, who helps make our channel possible. Zenni is so unique in the experience you have when ordering glasses. At Zenni.com, you choose your perfect look, and then you try them on virtually to see how you look before you buy. I love that. You're going to love these glasses, whatever you do. Check it out today. Here's Kevin with the story. Kevin, one of the first things I want to ask you, what was it for you that kicked open the door to your mind, made you want to pursue music, that kind of kicked that off? Do you remember?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was the opening chords of I Want to Hold Your Hand. Down, 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 down. I mean, to this day, the first thing that happens when the house lights go down at an Reo Speedwagon concert is you hear those chords. Mm-hmm. And it's partially because, it's a cool thing for the audience, but it's really because it just connects me with that moment right before I walk out there. And I've heard that intro to I Want to Hold Your Hand a million times, and every time I hear it my juices get flowing and I'm ready to rock.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something.
You saw it on Ed Sullivan, right?
I did. It's
amazing because about 80% of the musicians, when I ask them that question, they're like the Beatles and Ed Sullivan. It's like, if that moment wouldn't have happened, would rock and roll be what it have happened?
I don't know, man. I can't imagine the world without those moments,
It just connected so many people. I mean, of course, I wasn't there. I wasn't even born yet, but I can just imagine. Ann Wilson of Heart was telling me that she just wanted to get closer to the TV to just be a part of that energy,
Yeah.
Like so many musicians of my generation, it was seeing the Beatles play on Ed Sullivan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
That was really the moment when the light bulb went on. But I think it was different in the case of myself and my sister because we wanted to do it. We didn't just want to be the girlfriends of the Beatles. We wanted to go out and be the Beatles.
Right.
Be the experience.
It's interesting because I've interviewed like 80 musicians and I swear like 80% of them say the Beatles.
That was a powerful moment,
Yeah.
on television and for rock and roll in general. I mean, I think it was the first time rock had been shown just that way on TV. And it just opened up the tops of everyone's heads to the possibility of what could be.
I read somewhere, I saw something where you said that you just wanted to get closer to the TV just to,
Yeah.
feel that energy and become that.
It was like a campfire, and the whole world was sitting around it. We were all connected at that moment. I mean, everybody that I know from my generation of musicians, like you say, it's a connection that we all have. We were all sitting there watching it in black and white going, holy cow, man. That's because, up until then, there were singers, there were like the Four Seasons, the groups that kind of wore matching clothes and did their choreography, and that was a thing. And there were the Brill Building songwriters who provided the material, and then there were the backing bands who played the instruments. And up until then, I was taking guitar lessons, but I wasn't really kind of sure why. And when the Beatles came out, it was like the Maxell tape commercial.
Maxell, it's worth it.
My mind was blown because it was like, wait, these guys are playing the songs, they wrote the songs, they're singing the songs, these four guys are doing it all. And I was like, it just was so clear to me at that moment that that's what I wanted to do. Now, I'm very fortunate that the path cleared in front of me and that the stars were lined up. But at that moment, there was no doubt in my mind that I would be sitting here right now talking to you about having a career as a musician.
Continues.
When I look back now, I go, the chances are they're infinitely small that this would happen. So I'm just so, I'm just so thankful that I'm still doing today what I dreamed of doing when I was 12 years old watching Ed Sullivan.
Take It on the Run, top 5 hit. Went to number 5. Another one of those songs just takes me right back. Tell me about recording that and putting that together.
That was the 1-2 punch that brought Hi Infidelity. It was doing okay with Keep on Loving You. And then when Take It on the Run came out, it's like all hell broke loose. But, the record company, it's pretty funny. Our record company, first, they didn't want us to put Keep on Loving You on the record because they didn't think it was a hit.
Oh my gosh.
And they wanted, for the second, when it became a hit, they wanted the second single to be In Your Letter. And I was just like, guys, the second single is Take It on the Run. At some point, you just have to go, it's nice to listen to what other people say and factor it in. But at some point, I felt like, wait a minute, Keep on Loving You is the #1 record in the country. I think I've got the right to just go, this is what we want. And Gary and I were in agreement, and it was like, we're going for it. But Take It on the Run, it originally wasn't called Take It on the Run. I went out to Gary's house, as I used to do, and kind of go through all of his notebooks and demos, because he was like a mad scientist out there. You wouldn't see him for weeks. He'd be in the studio 24 hours a day, just churning out stuff. And, like all of us, they weren't all gems. So I had to kind of go through it. That was kind of one of my roles in the band. We'd worked all day, and I'm kind of frustrating. And he goes, we didn't really come up with anything. And Gary's like, well, I got this one slow one. I don't think it's really any good. It's a slow song. I'm like, well, let's hear it. Okay, I hear this. Heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another, you've been messing around. And I'm like, dude, that's the greatest opening line.
No kidding.
That not only that you've ever written, but I think I can honestly say, to me, the opening line of a song is so important. To me, probably the best ever is I once had a girl, or should I say she once had me.
Oh yeah, Norwegian
You hear that?
Wood.
Norwegian Wood. You hear that line, and it's like, I just want to hear the rest of that song.
I once had a girl, or should I say?
That line sets you up for the story, right? You want to hear where it goes, and also it's so indelibly in the psyche now of the world that whenever you say, "Well, I heard it from a friend," this has happened a million times. Well, I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who.
I was talking to my wife the other day, who's 10 years younger than me, and she was one of the few women in Wisconsin who was not an Reo Speedwagon fan in the 80s. But that line, she said, when I think of Reo Speedwagon, I think heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend. And just recently, Pitbull, he just did it. He just, him and Enrique just kind of.
Yeah, Enrique Iglesias.
They're singing together, and then it kind of goes into this thing, and I was like,
the tip of the hat.
That's pretty cool.
Heard it from another, you've been messing around.
Obviously, it's so sad that Gary passed away. You know, he was such a part of my life. It's, there's a book there, but just that he's not here to experience that. I think he would really be tickled, and hopefully he's somewhere, listening to it.
You're under the gun, so you're taking on the run.
It's amazing. Music has such power.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to ask you about there were 4 top 40 hits from this album. In Your Letter, it's a fun song. I hear it on Sirius XM, the 80s, all the time. It's very much got an early 60s or even a late 50s kind of vibe to it. Tell me about putting that together.
Well, when Gary first brought the song in, it really didn't sound like an Reo Speedwagon song to me, but there was something it kind of felt like a doo-wop thing. And so I kind of just started going, in your letter, ooh, in your letter.
Yeah.
In your letter, it was such a doo-wop. I thought, well, wait a minute. If we're going to do this, Gary kind of wanted to take it and try to turn it into a rock song. And it just wasn't working. It just sounded kind of dorky or something. So I'm like, all right, dude, how about if we just forget about trying to make it sound like an Reo Speedwagon song and just go for what this song is. It's basically a Ronette song. So then we kind of just went through the kitchen sink in there and just went totally 50s on it. It fit on the record thematically.
Right.
Musically, it's like from a different place, but the thing, I think, one of the things about this record is the fact that all of us were kind of going through similar, experiences. All of our relationships just disintegrated simultaneously. I think we've just been on the road so long that all the women in our lives just went, you know what? Screw you, So we were all kind of in that place. So the songs, it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't a planned kind of concept album, but there was a continuity in the themes of the songs that.
Hence, Hi Infidelity.
Well, there's the title that I came up with, and the band looked at me like, "Are you kidding? We cannot possibly call this album Hi Infidelity. Are you out of your mind?" But what made In Your Letter fit on the record, because it was so out there musically, was it was talking about the same, Keep on Loving You, Take It on the Run, In Your Letter, the same story, just from different perspectives.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. What did I tell you? Such a great guy. Leave us a comment about this 80s sing-along classic and about Reo Speedwagon. What are your memories of this band? Tell us below. If you do like our content, we invite you to be a full-time part of Professor of Rock by subscribing. Check us out on Patreon for our other content. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.